Hello, and welcome back to the new version of the podcast, which is now shifting to simply being the Unpressured podcast. In today's episode, I want to share everything that happened over the last couple of years, why there has been such a quiet time. Want to express all of the discoveries, well, on the surface level to as much detail as I can with the amount of time that we have in this particular space. And at the same time, I want to share that we are in such a beautiful time of change on the planet that many of us are having to go through particular processes where things just have to change. And of course, the human mind, sometimes not understanding what is happening or occurring, is trying to hold on to the plans that the mind had for the future when this is not what our life is actually destined to be. And so this has been the process for me over the last couple of years where my mind has really been trained on not only the art of letting go, but has been beaten down into submission because anything I tried, anything I started, went nowhere. Anybody that I would reach out to would go quiet. And I ended up being, at least in the last 6 months, maybe even over the last couple of years, in such complete and total isolation with barely any contact, with barely any connection. And all of that, looking back, I can see has been a beautiful orchestration to help me come to the realizations that I've been able to receive and experience. And so, in this particular episode, I want to share the reason why the shift is to the unpressured brand, to the Unpressured message, how I came to such a realization, and what that means for you for right now and going forward. And if this is of interest, stick around. If not, there are other wonderful ways to spend time, of course. So for me, the last couple of years, I spent going to coffee shops, from coffee shop to coffee shop, with a notebook and a pen, sitting down, writing down my thoughts, and really going deep into figuring out the mechanics of our lived reality. And you may have even seen that for a time, I have shifted the brand to even call it reality mechanics, to even talk about strictly the quantum mechanical application of how it is that we get to live, how our consciousness creates this reality. And at the same time, I noticed that my honest human expression actually wants to live and create as a human, to have project plans, to uh, have conversations, to have calls with people in a grounded way rather than continuing to say that, hey, we live in a matrix, it's all a mirror, nothing matters. And so reality mechanics has become the foundation on which the Unpressured paradigm sits. It is not going to be the front door, but it is going to be the really the walls of the house and the key foundation on which um, the entire conversation is going to be based on. Because if you continue to think and believe that you are a separate, tiny little human living on a huge planet here, attempting to compete and survive against the billions of other people, that will continue to create the experience of separation, to create the experience of perceived lack and scarcity, um, the constant alert that the mind then needs to be on to keep the unsafety away to work hard in order to earn some kind of provision and attempt to stay away from the lack and scarcity. And that conversation leads to a lot of the typical high performance and achievement stuff where we're taught to forget our internal experience, forget satisfaction, fulfillment, and focus on the disciplined approach to achieving and chasing for results and outcomes. And that is not this conversation. That is not a reality I want to live in. That is not a reality I want to talk about. And so at the same time, I also don't want to stray too far away from living a human life in a body to say that we live in a matrix, that everything is a mirror and all you got to do is just do your stuff in the consciousness aspect. Well, no, this is a combination of the two. This is a practical applied wisdom of the concepts, quantum mechanics, spirituality, and all the other wonderful conscious conversations that I love to have, and yet I am bringing that down into the very practical. How do we get to live day to day? Right. So this was my thinking process from not continuing with reality mechanics as the main brand, but rather, how can I bring it down and connect it with lived experience that people are going through, who are perhaps still finding hardship or challenges in day-to-day reality, have bills to pay, perhaps are looking for a career shift or how to expand your leadership abilities or perhaps your business. And so how do we bring the reality mechanics into this lived reality? And when I was trying to attempt to do that, I was looking at what is the outcome of applying the mechanics of reality, of mastering them, and of being able to, what they say, right? We can shift realities. And so the promise there, right, just defaults to having a reality that you love. It is having the relationships, the money, the service, the impact that we all have been striving for, have been taught that it is what we're here for. And so I've been sitting with that concept because this has not been my lived reality over the last couple of years. I've mastered or have studied the concept of manifestation. And so I was supposed to be able to manifest things that I would prefer, and yet I was manifesting a lived experience of complete isolation. And from that perspective, I was questioning the promise of manifestation as well. Because promising external results is a very easy marketing move that many people surrender into because this is what the market wants and this is what the market is buying, right? And I could have sold the promise of manifestation, and yet what I instead realized in my own experience is that we absolutely have absolutely no control about what occurs in our life. Even though we could have the most amazing resources and be applying the greatest greatest effort into producing results and outcomes, there are so many things that that are outside of our control. right? The market moves, the behavior of other people, the whatever, you name it. We can have our best intentions, and yet things um, happen to happen on their own. And as I was seeing that, as my mind was being basically taught to see that what occurs in life is actually none of my say. Like I have no control over it, including some of the channeled material that comes through. You may be hearing me refer to Bashar quite often because I have really experienced personally the truth of the message he's sharing, that it is about identifying the state of how we want to live, maybe imagining the results we want to have, right? The finances, the relationships, the love, the connections. Imagine the state we would feel when we have those things. Bring the state into our body, into our experience, and forget about the external picture that we thought we needed in order to have that felt state, right? So rather than having to uh, go after an external circumstance that I thought would provide me with a feeling of being worthy, whole, complete, happy, etc. What the message has been is no, you forget about that and simply hold the state. So in my last couple of years, I was trying to see how does that apply and how come none of my manifestations were coming through. And so instead, what I discovered, my mind was being trained in separating the circumstance that are happening in my life from my lived, felt internal state, to the point of, can I allow nothing happening in the external to also mean that I can have the greatest internal experience of it? And in a way, this is what allowed me to come to not only the idea, but really an experience, embodied and integrated experience of being so unpressured that none of the external results can make me feel any certain way. And when that happens, the mind goes, well, then what's the point then? What else is there to do if the reality is not the thing that makes you feel anything? So basically, any dreams and aspirations we've had before, right? Let me like get to my finances so I can feel okay. Let me get to certain projects or outcomes so that I can feel happy. If none of that is actually making us happy, and that we can just feel happy in the presence without needing any of the external stuff, then what the heck do we do? So I was sitting with that for a couple of years, for a few months, right? And I'm sitting with all of this, and there's not many people who I could have conversations on such deep topics because I needed my own time and space without any external input. Because right when we have the conversations, then you sort of we might be able to take on other people's ideas, and I haven't been able to find the perceptions or perspectives of other people who could point me in a direction that was sort of bubbling up for me. And so that's why I needed to be in this beautiful moments of isolation to bring kind of the discoveries that I've been able to connect with now. And so, right, how do I bring the reality mechanics world into some kind of promise, realizing that I can't really promise any external outcome? In the meantime, uncovering and discovering that our internal experience has actually nothing to do with external outcome. So in a way, like my idea about promising external outcomes just completely dismantling. But then what the heck is the promise then? And how do results come about, right? Do we continue to live? How do we continue to live? And in that regard, I was basically watching where my true motivations were pointing me. And I was bringing these motivations to such in the moment, little simple things. Do I want to sit? Do I want to stand? Do I want to go for a walk? Do I want to lie down for a nap? Do I want to grab a drink of water? Do I want to go for a drive? Do I want to visit another place? And I had these experiences. And what I was dealing with as well is I thought that me following these little interests would get me to certain kinds of external manifestations and basically results. And I would go for a week. I would drive to different particular locations, different towns around my area. And I would do that for a week and I would enjoy it. I would see the new places. I would enjoy the coffee shop experiences. And then by the end of the week, I noticed that I have an internal frustration of, like I've been doing all of this and I don't have anything to show for it. Like, why the heck did I do that? What did I do that for? And so I go into my another journaling session and I have the conversations inside of me. Of course, there were multiple aspects of me having that conversation. And I'm literally writing down, well, the whole point of the experience was the experience itself. Right. And that was uh, one of the many key realizations I had that I wasn't following my interests in order to get somewhere. The following of the interests was the end result or was the end destination. Like the experience was the point of the experience rather than trying to get to some sort of external outcome or destination. Right, which is coming back to those deep lines that we see in our social media all the time, but we don't fully see the depth of them. Whether, that question, what's more important, is it the destination or the journey? And I had a really this in-depth seeing that the journey, the experience is all there ever is. And so then I now see kind of how the reality is structured. I can see how the quantum mechanics world works. I can see how the frequency and vibration affects our external reality. There is no particular destination that we're after. Anything that we thought we wanted, we connect with that in our imagination. We connect with the felt state of that. We bring it into this very moment so that we don't have to wait for that future. And then we just pick up what's the most kind of interesting thing to go from here next, just for the sake of that experience. This has been my last really few months. And what I saw in all of that is that all of those promises of particular external results, I had no interest in having conversations about that any longer because I saw that the mind wanted those external results only because it has delegated or relegated, it has given away its power to that result, thinking that that result is going to make us feel anything or make us feel better or make us feel different from what the current moment makes us feel. So I don't want to talk about results at all whatsoever. And then I'm kind of sitting with that. What is it that I do want to talk about? What is my message? And all this time, I am discovering and connecting with these deeper parts of myself that are completely detached from what are people going to think? How am I going to promote it? What ads do I run? What offer do I create in order to attract people so that they become interested in this. And the whole time I'm just digging deeper, like what is the truth of this entire thing? And so there's no promise of the outcome. And then I'm like, if there's no promise of the outcome, then what is the point of this work and this discovery that I'm doing? And through that process, I am really connecting to such deep level of presence. My whole life, I've been trying to get somewhere. I've been chasing. I've been looking for goals. I've been trying to achieve. And the last little while, all of that disappeared. Pure presence came in. I am completely in the moment. I am detached even from needing any sense of clarity or direction of where I'm going because I have dissolved into the moment so much to see that whatever the mission I'm on, it's already happening through these discoveries and realizations that it's not for my mind to try to come up with certain goal to try then go and achieve, but it's actually my mind was being set down sometimes forcefully as a little kid, as a little student, and kind of watching this bigger figure in front of me drawing on a blackboard saying, it's like, here's how reality works. Here's what we're here for. Here's why we're here. And here's what your role is going to be. That allowed my mind to completely step away. And so the process to get there, of course, there's some healing, there's some realizations. But this particular episode, I'm focusing on why the unpressured, why the unpressured state. So you're noticing that there is a certain mastery of reality mechanics, how stuff works. There is a mental need and want to get certain external outcomes. What I've seen is that our internal lived state has nothing to do with the outcomes. And even the higher teachings, they're saying forget the external outcomes because you can't even imagine what's coming for you right now. Like the only thing that your mind can use to imagine is your past learned stuff that you think is possible and that you can't even imagine what's coming. Which I've had experiences where it's like, wow, this was such a surprise. I had no idea this was coming. So it's not about promising results. It's coming back to this present moment. And then the entire point is the journey. And it's not in the journey so that you can get to the destination, but the traveling is the journey. Like the whole point is the experience of the traveling. And this kind of led me to several layers of you may have heard me going with like the flow habit, the effortless performance. Then I started looking just the old ways, the Taoist system, Wu Wei, the effortless action, which I've already been grasping, I've been teaching, I've been talking about, and kind of I'm returned back to it. Well, isn't that the whole point then? To simply return to wholeness, which is really the majority of the work, to return to the wholeness of this very moment so that you need nothing. And then from there, had the question, well, what would happen next from there? And what I got was when we get to this very moment, to the point of such complete wholeness of needing nothing, that now the true desire is able to then come out and be expressed. And in a way, this even podcast episode is coming through from that lived experience that now this is my most exciting expression that wants to come in this very moment because the peace and presence that I got to is what I want to talk about and I want to help people get to as well. And but that's not also the destination because when we get to the peace and presence, then our most authentic interests, curiosities, desires, and creativity have a chance to arise. And I also thought, well, then why not run sort of the creativity school, or how to help people become creative, or how to help them uh, move their projects along. And this is kind of where I got to back the results, right? It's like business coaching. How do we get to a different state? And there are a lot of people who are already doing that. But what a lot of people were missing who were already creating and chasing businesses was this state from which they were doing it was a state of um, incompleteness in this very moment, that they needed to make that business so that they have more impact, more success, more external outcomes, and then so that they can feel at peace, feel worthy, feel like they're a contributing member of society. And which kind of brought me back again that, wow, whatever comes from you when you are in the present whole state also has nothing to do with me. Like, all I can do is help direct you back to yourself, to this very moment, what the truth of you wants to express as next. And when I combined all of these concepts together, then it is coming to this wholeness in this very moment, right here, right now. There is a particular process that I've developed since then that helps to connect all of this. I have created a wonderful video to talk about it. Really, I'm calling it "Starting Your Reset," helping you move from the current experience of having to live life from pressure, needing to get somewhere, needing to having to do stuff just in order to exist, to survive, and you're not sure how to do it, to move to this new state of unpressured existence, but not only unpressured existence, but getting back to the point of high performance living, like fully being alive, having the clarity, and going after and creating projects that are actually you're having fun with. And so this is now the entire process of this podcast to assist you to get to a lived experience of being unpressured in your day-to-day life. And not only forget about living life and kind of become peaceful and live on the beach the whole time and escape the consumerism and productivity, right? But instead, no. How do we bridge the two worlds of achievement and this presence and being in an unpressured state? How can you combine a high performance with being unpressured? And this was the wonderful downloads that I've been having over the last couple of years, really connecting and dismantling what made the high performance into the animal that it is today, why people thought they needed pressure to perform, why I needed why I relied on pressure so much. What happens when that pressure is no longer able to motivate our psychology and biology? And kind of I wrote a whole piece, a whole letter on that. You can check out on afterpush.com, which is not a sense of burnout, but it is really a very intelligent moment when the system says we are done operating from pressure. Because in these 2 years, I've had ideas, and as I was just about to get started on them, my internal conversation was, no, we're done operating that way. We're not doing it that way. We're gonna wait until you're complete this change of fuel from having to operate from requiring pressure, urgency, deadlines. We are disconnecting you from that way of operating, and instead we're gonna connect you back to this other way of operating, which is being driven from just a natural drive and momentum, and what that process looked like in between, right? So when you are done operating from pressure, when you are done thinking that life is here, you have to something fight against and survive, your system has the intelligence to bring you back into this conversation so that you can dismantle all the programming and the conditioning you received up until this moment, become unpressured, touch the ability to exist and be in the moment without any pressure happening, and kind of a a little, uh, I guess, a loop opening in the masterclass that I have on the website now, the Unpressured Operating System Masterclass. The component that creates pressure is, of course, an emotional pain or a certain aspect of ourselves that doesn't feel whole, doesn't feel enough, doesn't feel safe, and doesn't feel lovable, provided, etc. And so those aspects are the ones who create pressure, and they have been the ones motivating you to achieve and perform. And so kind of I'm seeing it so clearly now that the detail of that is already listed and provided on the website. You can go on Unpressured.co. You have the getting started training, you have the masterclass, you have the beautiful Unpressured app with another 7-day challenge to help you kind of grasp these new concepts where we are completely going away from chasing the outcomes and shifting and understanding what actually creates our experience of reality and how we get to influence what happens um, through us, for us, and kind of from us next in this world. And so uh, at the same time, the entire point is the journey and the experience itself. It's not trying to get somewhere. So if the journey is the experience, then how do we want to experience it? Why don't we want to be unpressured? And that's why kind of ta-da, hence the name of where we're moving going forward. And I can imagine that even for you, just listening to some of the stuff, you're making some realizations that perhaps maybe, yes, becoming or getting to a state of unpressured is actually the most wonderful gift we can give ourselves. Because when we're unpressured, we have all of the freedom to then do and be whatever we want. And you'll find out, yes, there are certain scarcities and fears in a way, but we have ways to deal with them as well, to address them. When we are unpressured, then all of the wonderful things you gotta have a chance to unfold. Because until then, even when we get the external outcome that we think we want, there's going to be a continued worry about what's going to happen next, right? And the pressure will continue to beget more pressure. So this has been sort of a quick summary of my last couple of years. The message that I'm here to share with this particular podcast, with this message of learning to live life unpressured, and not only just living and existing, but how do we then bring it back to the world of performance, back to the world of business creation service, and really bringing back the possibility that high performance living is possible without having to carry the weight of the demand, the expectations, the responsibilities that we thought it all included, which it doesn't. So if this speaks to you, welcome to stick around, share it with somebody, or go check out the website, unpressured.co. And I'm excited to see where this takes all of us next.